Alrighty. Hi guys, happy Tuesday. Thank you for coming to Let's Talk Wellness with the virtual meetups with Be Well. Here we are with January 19th, keeping stress in check. We're joined with Cheryl as she tries some short and simple stress reduction techniques that will help us stay well in 2021. So we know stress has a big negative impact both on our minds and our bodies. So I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl to show us some great techniques and some simple stress relievers that we could do on a day-to-day basis. So welcome, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, I'm going to do my best to share my screen here. Boy, don't I have a lot of screens open. Okay, here we go. So let me make sure that everyone can see that. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. All right, and feel free to jump in at any time, anybody. I want to make sure that this is interactive so we get as much out of it as we can. So I'm Cheryl Milson. I represent Livongo and the Be Well team. And stress is always an interesting topic for me to talk about because I would say out of the three major areas of wellness, physical activity, healthy eating, and stress management, it's certainly the one that I am challenged with the most on an ongoing basis. So, a couple of facts about stress. Fun fact number one is that stress can be both good and bad, believe it or not. Kind of has the same, and on the human psyche to a certain extent, regardless of whether the stressor, the thing that's causing us a disruption in a normal steady state is good or bad. So an example that I always think of right away is people who have children. It's a wonderful thing, but you're busy and there's always a lot going on. So that's like a good stress, if you can think of it that way. And then, of course, something much more obvious like an illness is probably clearly a bad stress. So be anyone from the Be Well team, just let me know if you're having any difficulty hearing me or anything. I can't see anybody else now, so fill me in if there's an issue. Okay, so another fact about stress. Too much stress, even when it's good, believe it or not, has negative effects on our minds and bodies. And I'll explain that for a second. A way to think about that is I tend to be a very engaged, excited person. And that's all great. But the chemicals in our bodies, in my body, that causes me to be that way can do just as much damage to the body as when those same chemicals come forward into the body from their reserves from something bad. So I'm like super revved up a lot. I get really excited about what I do. But part of why I practice stress management techniques is to calm my body down from that good, excited, energetic state and bring myself back to a more level state so that my body can rejuvenate itself and as well as my mind. And I think, when we're talking about negative effects on the mind, I don't know about you guys, but is that sort of what everybody thinks about when they're feeling this? That's really what stress feels like to me. So tell me, anybody, so that I know you're there. Maybe I'm not there. So are we hearing me, guys? Nick or somebody, can
yes, Cheryl, we can hear
know
you.
that you can hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I just have no way of knowing, sorry, when my screen's on. Okay, that's wonderful. So what's again interesting about stress is we can control some of the situations in our lives that cause us stress, but some we certainly can't control. So what does that look like? Well, for example, the pandemic is a perfect example, right? We effectively have no control over the fact that there's this worldwide pandemic, and it's not good news. Some of the things we can control within that situation is how we behave, how much risk we take. Are we taking care of ourselves, body and mind, as this is happening? Those types of things. But ultimately, we can't control the situation that's causing us the stress. And I think it's important to acknowledge the difference. And when you're under some kind of stress or stressful situation, do what you can. And also be able to accept the fact that some of it you don't have any control over. And a lot of times that's where stress reduction techniques can become helpful. So something else, kind of like what I said, we can control our responses to stressful situations or events, even if we can't change them. And that's an important thing to hang on to, because when life feels out of control sometimes, it can be a really scary or disturbing feeling. But it's always good to remember that there's certain things you can do in response, even if you can't necessarily fix the problem. So what are some tools for keeping stress in check before we get to the actual stress reduction techniques? Self-talk is a favorite one of mine. Kind of just saying, okay, you don't have to do this out loud, even though I do sometimes find myself doing that. This is what's happening here. I'm acknowledging that there's this situation going on. What am I feeling? Have I felt this before? Have I seen this before? What have I done? And so on. It's kind of like problem solving in your head to get some perspective, which might also help you keep perspective. Like crazy stuff can happen in life. Things come up. We're not sure how to handle them, or worse yet, we've seen them before and we know it's something not good. But you can remind yourself either I have problem solving skills or techniques or resources to help me get through this, or, I've not been through this before and I know how to handle it. But keeping perspective is often a useful one. I'm a big fan of talking with friends and families and or getting professional help. I think being able to say and acknowledge even to yourself, hey, I'm not okay, but I know some different things I can take advantage of to be okay, is always a useful place to be. And of course, through PSEG, there's a lot of resources as far as getting professional help, not the least of which is your EAP, Life Solutions, available to everyone who works at PS, and they're always there to point you in the right direction for help that you might need. Physical activity is a great one. There's something about physical activity that brings out chemicals in the human body that tend to address and help to reduce and manage stress. So sometimes when I'm really feeling under pressure from this or that, I say, you know what, I got to get up and move myself away from this situation, move myself into some kind of positive chemical reaction that can help me get into a better place to either address what's happening or enough resilience to survive what's happening. So physical activity is always a good one. And then there are actually formal stress reduction techniques, which we'll talk about. And those are a great place to go too. So hopefully part of what today we'll do is build your toolbox a bit. Okay, so questions so far, and then we can continue. Anybody have anything? Anybody have a chat? I can't quite believe that I've hidden like everyone from myself. So let me know if anything comes up, or BeWell team, take a question for me. Otherwise, we can continue. So why practice stress? What's it all about? Well, there's emotional reasons and there's physical reasons. But probably the most key to understand is you just plain get to enjoy your. We also know that there's these emotional reasons, and the, reducing negative emotions and focusing on the present and so on. But I think just so you feel better, and your patience will increase and your tolerance and those things, and your quality of life will be better, is a good place. And then research is showing us that meditation or other stress reduction techniques really do help with a lot of physical problems, physical ailments, potential conditions, and that's useful too. That's another good enough reason to explore some of these ways to help better keep your stress in check. And you folks, if anybody wants a copy of this presentation afterwards, we can certainly get it up, as Jen pointed out, and the video will be up. So think of meditation techniques just more of relaxation techniques or stress reduction techniques. So what is that about? Well, the simplest thing you can do, that we all can do, is breathe. And it sounds really easy, right? We're breathing all the time. But what we find is under stress, in chronic or acute, so either short-term or long-term stressful situations, we tend more than not to hold our breath. So I always check my breath when I know I'm under stress or I'm about to go into a potentially stressful situation. I put my hand on my abdomen, which I invite you all to do with me now, if you like. Just take your hand, rest it on your belly, and take a couple of deep breaths in and out. Through your nose if you can, through your mouth is fine too. So just stop and take a breath and exhale. Maybe lengthen that breath to a couple of seconds in and a couple of seconds out. And notice what's happening to your body, or maybe even what's happening inside your brain when you do that. All that is breath focus. Another word is deep relaxation breathing. It's free, it's easy. Your breath is always available to you, because at some point, if it's not, then we don't really need to worry about stress at all. And it's really important. It's the most basic stress reduction tool that we have, is becoming aware of and then focusing on breathing, just the inhale and the exhale, and noticing how it's making you feel. And if you're still have your hand on your abdomen and you're slowly breathing in and out, maybe even counting a few counts in and a few counts out, you may already have noted a shift in the way you feel. And that's the idea with breath focus, is to become aware of yourself, of your state, of the breath, and slowing and calming the body down. Now, a body scan is not so dissimilar. It's also known as progressive muscle relaxation. And as you're working on that breathing, noticing, is there tension in your body? I almost always notice when I stop and I focus inward on my breath, that my shoulders are up near my ears. So the first thing that tends to happen for me is I drop the shoulders down, my shoulders down, and I remember that I have a neck. And already that starts to shift the way I feel. I also tend to strangely carry some tension in my feet when I feel stress. Turns out I grip with my toes. And so if I do a more formal progressive muscle relaxation, where I actually move through the different areas of my body as I ask the question, do I feel tension here? Can I, with my breathing, relax those different areas, those different muscles? I often will notice my feet relax. So pause here for a quick question. Does anybody ever notice, and again, I'm going to stop sharing for a second. We can come back. And here's the chat. So something's cooking in the chat. Any specific area of your bodies where you tend to carry the most tension? Either just unmute yourself and tell me, or put it in the chat box. But I would say very often people feel stress in their low back, sometime in the hips and lower back from neck. That's a big one, Shannon, I'm with you. So lots of areas. And of course, chronic muscular tension driven by stress is not great. It can lead to, more serious physical chronic problems. So finding ways to reduce that stress using techniques like I was just describing can be really helpful. Will that tension come back? Sure, it will. And then you practice a technique to reduce it. And across time, if you practice stress reduction techniques enough, one thing you may notice is the stress levels don't build as high, and some of those physical manifestations of stress, like muscular tension or stomach problems or headaches, and the list goes on, may come up less frequently as well. So that's actually our hope for you. All right, so back we go to the techniques, and I think I skipped one back here somewhere. Guided imagery, that's a favorite one of mine. It's simple, it's quick. Picture your happy place, whatever that means for you. I have a spot on the beach in Aruba that I love, and I can conjure up in my mind's eye in just a couple of seconds. And I can imagine myself there. Think about your happy place right now. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes and put yourself in that place. Maybe it's in the woods. Maybe it's lying on the sofa in your home, just surrounded by photos of people you love and familiar things. Maybe it's the beach. And notice what's around you in that setting. Picture yourself there, large, close, and colorful. What are you wearing? What do you feel like? Are you happy? Are you content? What do you smell? I can smell suntan lotion. I can hear the ocean and the breeze. There's always good breeze on Aruba. But whatever it is for you, either listening to guided imagery through one of the Be Well programs or outside in some other kind of app that you might have available to you, or just imagining the scene yourself and being there in that place that makes you feel so relaxed and content, is another great relaxation technique that is available to you all the time. So then, what are some other techniques? There's what we call mindfulness meditation. And again, it all comes down to breathing. It's simply sitting, focusing on the breath as it moves in and out of your body. And perhaps the hardest part about it, the most difficult part, is noticing what you're feeling and allowing whatever you're feeling to come and go. Oof, I feel really nervous right now that someone's going to say something in this meeting that I don't like. Okay, acknowledge it and then go back to your breath. Or, any number of thoughts that are kind of always coming in and out of our minds, driving stress. Part of what's funny about stress and related anxiety is, by definition, all anxiety is anticipating that something might happen or something is going on, whether it's real or not, whether it ever happens or not. And I would say that many of us, including myself, suffer from anxiety at one point or another. And then oftentimes this thing or this thought or this, perceived situation doesn't even happen. And we've spent a lot of time and energy and created some great discomfort for ourselves just thinking that it might. So that's a great time during mindfulness meditation or just breathing and noticing feelings is, that you're feeling that way, and that's okay, but to not stay stuck in that feeling. Affirmations meditations or reduction techniques, stress reduction techniques or mantras. That's where the Om came from. You know, we've all probably seen people meditating on the mountain, Om, Om. All of that is just designed to give you something to focus on while you're breathing. And I really like affirmations because I think sometimes you have to fake it until you make it, you know, that saying. And affirmations are kind of a great way. I'm okay as I take a deep breath, or I'm going to be okay. You know, I can get through this. I'm smart enough to find a solution. Whatever you want to feel, believe, and affirm to yourself, that works for you. I have found great, 10, 15-minute affirmation videos. They're all over, you know, the internet. And I'm sure we even have some in our Be Well bag of tricks that really are useful. I often do them in the morning when I'm getting dressed or something. I'll listen to this, and it really helps to set the tone for the day and get you feeling good and positive and believing that you can get through whatever comes your way, which at the end of the day, I guess is stress defined. And then finally, there are other formal practices for stress reduction and meditation, yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong. Again, often tied into some physical movements, albeit gentle, again, to give us something to focus on along with the breath, and maybe turn our minds down a little bit from that chatter that often is exacerbating stress and perpetuating stress. So we have a little bit of time left, and I encourage us all, whatever technique works for you, some of the ones we talked about, or anything you use that you find calming that helps reduce your stress level and perhaps has you focusing on breath. Take time to work on your own emotional well-being. It doesn't often, pardon me, just happen organically. Just like exercise, you kind of have to do it, and the good effects start to happen. And we have great programs within Virgin Pulse, reducing stress journeys, and Will, another a great stress reduction and emotional health improvement app available by going into Virgin Pulse and finding it under programs. And I think the Exos group exercise classes, great for physical activity, to help reduce stress, to give you that physical push towards stress reduction. And in both live and on demand, some actual stress reduction practices. There's a great chakra meditation in the on demand, and Yogi and Holly offers us yoga classes as part of stress reduction in the group exercise. So that looks like it's the end of the good old slideshow. And if I knew how to work my computer, I'd stop sharing my screen. So let's stop sharing the screen. So anybody else have any ideas or practices that you use or like, or did anything from the conversation resonate to any of you or with any of you? Anybody out there with me? Okay, nobody feels like sharing.
I'm
That's
out here.
Oh, good.
Cheryl, it's Holly. I could share something.
Great, love it.
Yeah, so since I started leading this meditation class, I wasn't really meditating too much beforehand. But I do have to say, I also looked up all these breathing techniques and whatnot. Anyway, if one can remember the 4-7-8 breathing technique. So you just inhale 4, hold at the top for 7. If you can't hold for 7, don't worry, work your way up to it. Slowly exhale for 8. So 4-7-8. If you can remember that one, game changer. I'm telling you. So if you're stressed out, anxiety, and just like you, I'm high strung. Also the working out thing, right? I'm a personal trainer. Of course, I'm always going to push for that. But that always, in my opinion, can reduce stress and anxiety. So those are my 2 tads of.
I really agree. And I think that the 4-7-8 is almost considered an advanced breath technique. So if you've never really done focused breathing before, as Holly pointed out, if you can't hold for 7, don't worry about it. 7 seconds is a long time when you first start. Just noticing the breath, slowing the breath down, being aware of it going in and knowing it's always there for you to return to is a great place to start. And then, as Holly said, working up to 4, 7, 8 is wonderful. I see Shannon in the chat box. I love that you put that music helps you. I think music is a great way to, help us deal with stress and feel happier and feel better and get us out of our heads. It's not quite a stress reduction technique in that something active that you can do anytime. Like you can't throw on music in the middle of a meeting when you feel like your boss is putting you under pressure. But I love it too. But I think as far as breathing techniques, I love that one because it's always in your back pocket and no one can really see you doing it necessarily, but it has an instant effect and can really help address acute stress in the moment. So I'm so glad you all came today. I hope you'll think about trying some of those techniques, trying some of those programs within Be Well, because for sure, managing stress and keeping it in check is an integral part of staying well. So thank you, Jen, for having me. And anybody have any questions, just let us know at any time.
Thank you, Cheryl, for giving us some great stress tips here. So just want to let you guys know, next week we do have January 26th, building an effective workout with our Holly and Shannon here on the phone. So whether you're stuck in a workout rut or not exercising at all, this is the session to attend. They will have all different tips and tricks and answer any questions you guys may have. So hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy and be well. Bye, guys.
Be well, everyone. Thank you.